Well, greetings. As usual, I'd like for us to meditate for a couple of pieces of music. Today, I want to meditate to Monument Valley and Canyons of Light in celebration of our upcoming equinox outing. So let's, as we listen to these two pieces of music, just let the world go and tune into your higher self. That's what it's all about, really. So relax, go to your heart, and we'll begin. Take a breath. We're coming into the month of September, which is a beautiful month. It's one of my favorite months. It's when the heat of the summer starts to give way to the fall. And it's also the time of the equinox. And the equinox happens twice a year, once in the spring and once in the fall. And the equinox is when the tilt of the earth is such that the sun is hitting both of the poles at the same time. It's the only day that the sun shines on both the north and the south pole. And this is metaphysically interpreted as a time of balance, where the one is not above the other. From my point of view, the seasons go in a yin and a yang. The yin is the, maybe I'm getting this backwards, but in my view, the yin is the outgoing. It's the extrovert energy. And the extrovert energy starts accumulating at the winter solstice and continues on up through the spring equinox and then into the summer solstice, where it then shifts over to the yang, the introspection. So we have extrovert changing into introvert. And this goes up until the winter solstice again. So we're approaching the middle of the introvert part, which is a part where we can look inwardly. This is usually a time, this in the winter solstice is when we do our taxes. We look at our life. We're looking at our harvest. What are we going to be doing next year? We're looking inwardly. We're also having a chance to look at our lives and to see why we're where we're at, what brought us here, and maybe see if this is the trajectory that we want our life to go on. It's a good time. And right now, with the world on fire in just about every way, we need to be the ones that are cool, calm, and collected. We need to be the people on this earth that are pointing the way to higher intentions, to the better life, to a better way of dealing with each other, dealing with the environment, and working our way ahead in a more cooperative and more compassionate way. There are others that are choosing to go the other way, the other route of lower intention, which is, selfishness, fear, anger, tribalism. Does not have a good outcome. And people are making their choices. They're just making their choices. We all are. So I think I would like to come back now to why we're making the choices we're making, why we're where we're at. It's a fascinating study. I've been in metaphysics for 40, 50 years, a long time. Mind over matter, positive thinking, all of these things. I was always fascinated by how we can have a realization, but our life is back here and the actualization is not coming where our realization is. You can have an epiphany, or you can read a book and become inspired by a new way of thinking, a new way of doing things, and you start practicing your affirmations, and you start doing your little dream boards and things of that nature, and those work to a degree, or people wouldn't do them. Yeah, but why are we stuck? Why is it that I am stuck within a certain layer of economic and social? Why am I where I'm at? And why am I so limited in what I can see and do? I see other people who are not limited in areas where I'm extremely limited. And I see where there are places where I'm free and they're not. And it kind of gets confusing. So I would like to do some basic ideas for you to consider. And this goes back to 20, 30 years ago. I was studying Carlos Castaneda. And he had this fascinating thing that he called the assemblage point. And according to this theory, the soul comes into this life clean and clear. It has no prejudice. It has no anything. It is clear and clean. All of the data, all of the experiences from the past have been washed away, and all you're coming into is your basic program that you had worked on in your past life. Those of you who are computer programmer people, or most everybody is right now, probably much better than me. But you know that you get a new iMac or a new computer, and it has programs on it. It has Word processing files. It has all kinds of different files on it, but it is not populated by any data. You have to enter the data, but the program is there. And I'm suggesting that when you came in, you were clear, but your programming was still there from the previous lifetimes. Nothing has been taken away when you died other than the data. You lost ideas of your society, of your rank in society, of your religion, of your language, of your family. Go down the list, any list you have, it's all wiped away. But your approach to life, your flaws, and your achievements, those ideas where you have found success, you'll take that with you in the next life. But what happened? You came in and you were clear. And according to Carlos Castaneda, according to Don Juan in the Castaneda books, the moment that you came into this experience, you had no references, no point of reference. One of these people, or several people I think can do this, but I can remember my birth. And I remember the first few days, and it was just basically chaos and confusion, light and sound and feelings that I could not associate with anything. Sound was the same as the vision, and I was feeling things. I was having to determine what was sound, what was vision, what was feeling, what was this, what was that. As I kept looking and trying to gather up what was happening around me, I was being influenced by everyone and everything. My view of reality was being pressed upon me by my parents, by my family, by the friends of the family. I was born in a little oil field town of Eunice, New Mexico. Little sand dunes out there. It's an interesting little town. I like it, but you have to be born there. But anyway, born in that little New Mexico town to parents who had just come out of the Depression and were pretty poor. They were very industrious, but they were poor. My mother gave me religion. In a past life, from what I can gather, I was a Buddhist in Tibet. Before that, I was an American Indian. Before that, I could go on and on and on. Lifetime after lifetime. After each lifetime, everything is taken away. In this lifetime, I was born to a set of parents that gave me all the things that I needed in this life to get going. They gave me language, they took care of me, they fed me, they protected me, they educated me. And I went to school where all this was pushed upon me. And everyone was in a certain, as we would call it today, a certain Facebook bubble. Everyone was kind of in the same economic strata. I don't think there were any millionaires in Eunice, New Mexico. There were some wealthy people. They lived in the nicer houses, but they really weren't what we would call truly wealthy today. So here I am, born in this very constricted environment in which I'm putting things together along with everyone else around me. I'm finding out what's family and what's not. I'm seeing changes going on around, and I'm seeing that people are not trusting of anyone that's not in their close environment, in their social and economic environment. They're not very comfortable with people outside of that. So I was in this bubble that was pressed on me from everywhere. The schools I went to were kind of schools full of poor children. That's where we lived. It goes on and on. Everything in my life was pressed on me by everyone and everything, and their belief systems and the tribalism and the idea that's underneath in almost every human being is that something that's not like you, that you're not familiar with, becomes suspect and maybe even considered dangerous. So we have, it's kind of normal throughout the world that people who don't speak your language, who don't have the same color of skin, who don't go to the same synagogue or temple or whatever, if they're not like you, then they are to be pushed away and not trusted, because you can only trust people who are like you. And we look at the world today and we see it's like that all over. You are not that aware of that many people. I was given the assignment by my teacher to recapitulate my life and make a list of everyone I'd ever known. People that I could remember, school children, school chums and teachers and relatives. I thought that would be a list of 1,000 or 2,000 people. It wasn't. About 200, I think, maybe less. We really don't know that many people, really know them. Who have you met? Think about it. And of all of the people you met, they all had an influence on your consciousness. They all had a way of filtering your view because you were close to them. I never really understood, let's say, people from Peru, right? It was always kind of a mystery to me. A few years ago, I went down to Machu Picchu. I wanted to see Peru. It was a marvelous, marvelous time. We met Peruvian people. We even went into a home and had a little family. It was just, I was surprised. They're human like me. They have feelings and family like I do. They speak different languages. They have a different idea of culture, a different way of dressing, a different religion. But they were like me. Went to India, ran into the same thing. Go to Hungary, same thing. Beautiful people, different language, a little different culture, different view of religion, but still like me. But until I met them, they weren't like me. I only had them in some sort of a shadow, some sort of an imagination of what they must be like. And I was being influenced by people, you see on TV, that sort of thing. So when you become enlightened, you start becoming aware of your limitations. You become aware that the self that you have identified with your whole life is just a mere itsy bitsy shadow of what's going on in the world right now. There are 7 billion people plus in the world right now, and every one of them is like you. Every one of them is putting their world together. Every one of them is creating their own little safe havens within their religious group or their social group or their everybody is just in their own little tribe, and they don't trust anyone outside their tribe. It's tough. And even as an enlightened teacher, you realize that you can't reach everyone. Sai Baba, one of the greatest enlightened teachers of our time, I think that's pretty well accepted. Not the only one, but he's up there. But he only was able to meet a few million people, mostly people who understood Hinduism, or people who were drawn to his energy and gave up their own ideas of what religion was so they could go and sit with him and broaden their horizons. But he couldn't meet a lot of people. He did an amazing job, don't get me wrong. But we only see a few. Eternity is very large. And when we start to let go of our own sense of self, that egoic part of us that says, I have to think in the terms that I was given in this life, the belief systems, the religions, the things that I was given as a child, or that have been pressed upon me as an adult, that this is the way I should be, and give up old things. I need to work this out. Christ said to work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. My teacher said to dope it out. Get this doped out. Try to figure it out. Let go of the little self. The dissolution of the self is your ego. And that part of yourself that is the ego that says, me, I'm over here. That part cannot attain enlightenment. It must be dissolved. And we dissolve it in meditation, for one thing, because when you meditate, you stop your thought. So you meditate, you go and then stop my thought. So after a few years, you can stop your thought. When you stop your thought, the constructs start to soften up around you. You start seeing life a little differently. The other part that we do in spiritual practice is contemplation. Contemplation is reading spiritual books, going to different workshops, sitting with various teachers and see what they have to say, exploring life. Contemplation. What's it all about? That's important. To loosen up the old constructs that were given to you when you were born. To let go of those thoughts and feelings of everyone that's ever loved you so that you can discover for yourself who you are. And it's frightening because you don't know who you are. If you haven't meditated deeply, you don't know who you are. If you haven't had an awakening, you're still asleep. So we contemplate, we meditate to awaken. And then we pray. Prayer is where we give this energy and this awareness a direction to go. So prayer is important. Pray for what you want. Don't pray for what you don't want, because you'll get it. So let's circle back to the beginning. Why are you where you're at? Why is it that you can read books on peace and not have any peace? Why is it that you can read about ways of becoming prosperous and still have poverty as an overriding essence in your life? What's keeping you from being a miracle worker? What's keeping you from living an uncommonly fine life? And it goes back to the beginning of the assemblage point. You put life together with the help of everyone around you when you were born. My teacher was born to a very wealthy family. Wealth just came to him. I was born to a very poor family. Wealth does not come easy to me. And I can justify it and say, oh, I'm a monk, I don't need it, but that's a cop-out, really. The truth is, I haven't developed that part of me yet. I'm still putting life together underneath everything. I'm still putting life together the way it was when I was born, kind of. And I've kind of changed that over the years, more and more, but I'm still in the same bubble here. It's taken a great deal of work for me to get out of that bubble. It's the dissolution of the self. When I get rid of my doubts and my fears, when I move away from my anger and my need to control, I need to control people. They have to listen to me. They have to do what I say. I'm important here. Remember that. I'm important. I'll interrupt you so that you'll listen to me. Yeah. It's a self. It's a control issue. And if you don't listen to my control issue, then I have to dominate you. I have to make you. I was a school teacher. I had to dominate those kids. Otherwise, it'd get out of hand. Really. Manipulate. Those that you can't control outwardly through domination, you manipulate them through guilt and shame and through ridicule. Control, domination, manipulation, and everything is based on fear. Because that's what you were born into. That was the way your family structure was. Control, domination, manipulation, and fear. It's the way your job is worked with your boss and your company. You don't do it this way, you get fired. Manipulation. Just go into the dating scene. One manipulation after the other. And then there's always the fear, isn't there? I kind of gave up on fear. I got tired of it. Yeah. I don't like to deal with that energy anymore. It doesn't advance me. So how do we get out of that bubble that we were born into, that economic, cultural bubble? How do we expand out past that? Well, as I mentioned earlier, I did some traveling. That helps. Traveling is always that. They say when you travel, you expand yourself, you expand your world. Well, it's true. People who have traveled to Egypt and to Israel and to various countries, when they see the news, they see it much differently than those of us who haven't. The other thing to get rid of those limitations is through selfless service, of not needing for people to know and recognize you, but doing the right thing. Treating everyone as an old friend. Maybe you run up against someone who's terrifically aggressive and angry and trying to control, dominate, manipulate you, and trying to cast fear on you. If you don't do this, we're coming after you, that sort of thing. Can you forgive them? Can you sincerely pray for them to do better? Can you dedicate your life to making everything around you a little bit better? Selfless service, selfless. You don't need to be recognized. You don't need to be praised. Recognizing that the need for that is nothing but a control issue. Let go of your control. One of the things that we know in the enlightenment process is that you have to surrender. And you have to surrender up the way that you think it has to go. You can get yourself going so much in a direction that the only way you can become enlightened is if you meditate 90 minutes in the morning and 90 minutes in the afternoon and 90 minutes at night and read certain books and eat certain foods and dress certain ways and do certain actions and avoid everything else. And that's not enlightenment. That won't take you to enlightenment. Meditation itself won't take you to enlightenment. I know it sounds true. And Rajneesh said that, or Osho said that meditation was a failed system. For thousands of years, people have meditated by the millions, and only a handful have attained realization. He says, by any measurement, that's a failed system. However, I might add to that, that even though it may be considered a failed system, it's still much more effective than anything else we do. And the reason that people don't become enlightened is because they get so caught up in their practice that they forget about their higher self and about spirit. They're so caught up in their enlightenment that they don't care about others. Though so involved, self-involved, that they certainly don't want to help people who are not like them, maybe a different color skin or a different political belief. Got to move beyond that. We need to seek common ground with everyone. I was walking my little dog, as I do, and came across this fella walking around the block. He's at the far end of the block. Had a big Trump sign out front. You know, I got a real view of the world. And I said, hi. And he said, how you doing? I said, I'm doing good. And we started talking about our dogs. And then it turned to our family. And before I left and continued my journey, he invited me over for a barbecue sometime. We were good friends. We never once talked politics or religion, not once. We had common ground. And when you find common ground, there's an agreement. Jesus said to agree with your adversary when you're still in their midst. His disciples asked Christ, how many times we have to forgive people? 7 times? He says, no, you forgive them 70 times 7. Endlessly forgiving people. Endlessly searching and seeking ways that you can be of service, that you can raise the consciousness of people around you, not through some sort of a religious and spiritual empowerment, but by just your presence, being free and being love, being kind and compassionate is the way you change the world. Change yourself. Get rid of the anger inside of you. Deal with those control issues you have. Where did they come from? What made you so insecure that you have to have everybody believe the way you believe? What made you feel the need to dominate the way that they're controlling their life when you haven't really controlled your own that well? What is the point in telling people what to eat when their lives are full of fear and anger? Get rid of it inside of you. You are the answer here. You're not the problem. Redeem your soul. Seek the highest, seek the best. In your prayer, you should pray for your own enlightenment. You should pray for the ability to see and to feel the energies around you in a new and more liberating way. You should always be looking for ways of which you can be of service to others, even to the detriment of yourself. Be the answer. Quit pointing to all the problems. Can you be kind? Can you be loving? Can you be selfless? Those of us that practice this path will live an uncommonly fine life. That doesn't mean that we'll be wealthy or anything else. We may end up, sharing a campfire with our little shopping carts underneath the bridge, but we'll be happy. We'll be tuned into a higher self. We'll be liberated. We will bring enlightenment into a world of great darkness. Seek the highest, seek the best. Love everybody and learn to love yourself. Absolutely. I look forward to working with you. I look forward to being with you. Our time is very limited, I know, but that doesn't mean that we can't have some good quality time together. Take care. Be kind. Namaste.